Hi everyone, Caitlin with Flux here. Thanks so much for joining me today in our overview on filtering in the Ad Hoc Report Builder. We'll be going over how you can add filters to your reports in order to best deliver on the expected data utilizing our Ad Hoc Report Builder. If you should have any questions at any time during the webinar, please go ahead and type those in the Q&A section. We'll be dedicating the last few minutes for questions and answers, so we'll be saving all of your questions for then. If we do not get to your question in time, we'll try to go ahead and curate those and answer them offline. All right, let's go ahead and get started. In this Filtering in the Ad Hoc Report Builder webinar, we'll be going over the following questions. How do I add basic filters? How do I add advanced filters? How do I add cross-card filters? And then lastly, how do I add runtime filters? And as I'd said earlier, there will be a Q&A after the presentation. So let's go ahead and get started. First, let's go ahead and start with basic filters, otherwise known as standard filters. As a quick definition, a basic filter is a preset, readily available filter on cards and ad hoc reports. This preset list has been set for you during your implementation and can be accessed in the form builder. So if you have any questions about that, go ahead and let us know at Flux Support, and we'd be happy to point you in the right direction. Each model type has its own set of standard filters. So let's see how things look in the Ad Hoc Report Builder. So here we are in a brand new Ad Hoc Reports in the new Ad Hoc Report Builder as of 2016. And I want to direct you to the filter menu. You'll find it right next to the design tab in the middle of the screen here. By clicking on this, you'll be directed to the basic filter menu. So now that we've entered the basic filter menu, let's take a look around. You might recognize the basic filter menu looks similarly to the menu on the cards on your dashboard. That's because it, in fact, is the same menu. For example, here we're seeing the basic filter menu for request reports as my ad hoc report is built on the request report model type. So let me show you what it looks like on the card. So while the format looks a little different in the wider screen than the ad hoc report builder, the filters directly match, as you can see here. So now let's talk about advanced filtering on my ad hoc report. To quickly define advanced filters dive deeper into your system than the basic filters can, and advanced filters can drill down to specific values for fields on the model type you are filtering. You can also apply certain conditions to be met in your filter query. So for example, let's say that you only want to see organizations from California or New York in your card. You can set an advanced filter to search for the values California and New York under the fields that store the organization's location information, specifically the US state. Then you can set the filter to OR, since we want either California organizations or New York organizations. And I'll talk about how that can be built into the Ad Hoc Report Builder right now. So we're back at the basic filter menu. Instead of applying a basic filter, we're going to want to advanced filter. And what we'll want to do first is turn the advanced filter on. You'll find the switch next to advanced filtering found over to the top right of the filter window right here. So once you click on that, you'll see a different filter menu pop up. You might recognize this blue section, and that's because, again, this is the same advanced filtering modal as you have seen when attempting to advanced filter cards on your dashboard. Notice at the top left of the blue section, there's another switch, and that reads AND. If you click on this, you will change the logic from AND to OR. So remember my example where we want to search for organizations either from California or New York? If I were to leave this as AND, the organizations I'm searching for would have to meet both the criteria of being located in California and being located in New York. This would most likely yield 0 results unless I have satellite organizations for an organization in California that also has a satellite in New York. But that's going to be pretty rare for my own test site. But let's switch this to OR logic and see what happens to the menu. So now that we've switched over to OR logic, you'll see that the section that was once blue has changed to yellow. We can filter our ad hoc report based on most anything utilizing this more robust advanced filtering option. For more on filtering, please revisit our Flux 101 overview on filtering, which can be found on our knowledge base, which will include a little more detail on filtering on cards in the dashboard. You might notice that my report is built on the request report model type, as I'd mentioned earlier. If I'm searching for reports that are assigned to organizations in either California or New York, I'm probably going to want to cross-card filter. So just like on a card on your dashboard, I'm able to cross-card filter an ad hoc report. So let's quickly go over cross-card filters. Cross-card filters allow you to filter for fields found on a model type other than the one which you are currently filtering. So here's our definition here. You can also find these definitions in our glossary on our knowledge base. So for example, if I wanted to filter a people card for people connected to organizations in San Francisco, I would use a cross-card filter on my people card for the organization's model type. So I'm searching for information that lives on a different model type within another model type, and you can do that using cross-card filters. So let's see this in action in the ad hoc report builder. Here we are again in my advanced filtering menu, and you'll notice that links exist to cross-card filter my report at the bottom of the reporting menu right here. Since I want to filter for request reports for organizations located in either California or New York, let's add an organizations filter. Once you click on the link to add a cross-card filter for the organizations model, a modal will pop up. Notice I'm looking at the basic filtering menu for the organization model type as built on my site. To search for specific states, as in United States, I'm going to turn advanced filtering on in this modal. So again, the switch is going to be at the top right of the modal. And once I click that, I'll see this advanced filtering menu. There is a green plus sign to add a new field and value that I'm searching for at the top right of that blue section. So if I click on this, I'll be able to add the fields that I'm searching for. If you ever have trouble finding fields that you need for your ad hoc reports, please try generating the Flux System Glossary, which can be found at the top of your dashboard under Live Reports. It's a great resource to see what fields exist on your site, and that'll include ones that came with Flux out of the box, and also those that were built for your site specifically. We have an excellent webinar on finding fields in the ad hoc report on our knowledge base, and I encourage that you check it out for more tips on building your reports and finding those fields that you need to build your ad hoc reports. So using the Flux System Glossary, I've found which fields store the location information for my organizations, and specifically which field stores the state in which the organization is located. In my site, it's geo state. I've then typed in the value section at which is the third box here in this modal, California. Oftentimes, once you begin typing a value, you'll see the text field drop down with options to autofill the value. So when I started typing California, I actually got Baja California, Baja Sur, and California alone. So I selected California, and I'm going to go ahead and do the same for New York. So now that I've added my values that I'm searching for, and I've changed the logic to OR using the same switch as I'd shown you earlier, you'll see that the section is turned yellow, which indicates that I'm in OR logic. This will allow me to find request reports linked to organizations either located in California or New York. And then all you have to do is click Save. Now that we've discussed standard and advanced filtering, let's talk about runtime filters, which are specific to ad hoc reports. So let's say that you find yourself filtering for the report type whenever you build an ad hoc report on the request report model type. You can add any basic filter as a runtime filter so that you are prompted to select a value in that basic filter before generating the report. So let me give you an example. I have interim and final report as report types in my test site. So I want to be able to select the report for either interim or final reports instead of changing the filter within the report every time I need to generate it. This saves you a lot of time when building reports, such that you don't have to manually add, you don't have to change the value of the filter every time you need to run that report. So let's take a look at how we set those up in the ad hoc report builder. We're back in the ad hoc report builder again, and we're in the Runtime Filter menu right now. Notice that we have a green plus button to the top left of the panel. This is how we add a runtime filter. So let's take a look at what happens when I click this green plus button. You'll see a modal pop up to add a filter item. Once you expand the type dropdown, you'll see all of your basic filters as options. So remember, it looks like little dropdowns in the ad hoc report builder. It's a bigger dropdown in the card itself. And then here we're able to select the filter item, because what we'll do is we'll select what value we want in that filter. So instead of dropping down report type from here, we'll drop down report type when we're generating the report. And I'll show you what I mean by that. Since I'm always wanting to choose what report type I'm reporting on, I'm going to select report type as my runtime filter. Now this is how the screen will look once you've added that runtime filter to your report. And then what you're going to want to do is click Save to save all your changes and edits to your ad hoc report. And that'll bring you back to your dashboard. I'm back on my dashboard, and I've clicked on Generate Report for my ad hoc report that I've just built. And now I'm met with this modal. And as you can see, the name of the report is going to be at the very top. So the name of my report is Filtering Webinar Report. And the only runtime filter I have here is report type. So you'll see that I have a drop-down to select the report type. I could even do both of my report types by clicking on that green plus sign next to the drop-down, or I can just filter for either or. And this is particularly helpful and useful when you have many, many themes of reports or many, many themes of requests. Adding those runtime filters will allow you to tone down the results in your generated report, but still gather the same information that you want for each runtime filter. If you don't want this feature to be on anymore, you'll simply delete your runtime filters in the ad hoc report builder. This concludes today's webinar on filtering on the ad hoc report builder, and I hope you enjoyed it. If there are any details you would like to see covered more extensively, we will be hosting trainings in the future to address these features. You may also learn about any of these features by visiting our knowledge base. So let's go ahead and open it up to questions. Alrighty. So we have one question here. So it's a question about the advanced filtering menu and how to determine and or logic. That's a really good question. We do breach this topic on the filtering webinar, as well as the conditional logic webinar that we have on our knowledge base, but I'll just tell you a little bit more about it. So I had mentioned an example in which I wanted to look at organizations in one state or another. And what that means is I'm looking for two conditions. I'm looking for an organization that comes from California, and I'm also looking for an organization that comes from New York. And that's different from the and logic, which would mean that I'm looking for an organization that is both in California and in New York. So the and logic means it has to meet all criteria that you set in that advanced filtering modal, as opposed to just one or the other or the other. So really robust. You can also add nested conditions, which gets a little complicated. So I really do urge you to check out those other webinars that we have on filtering. All right, do you have any other questions? So we got one question. How do we filter using a field that we created on the grant form? So that's a great question. You absolutely can filter on a field that you've created. I would suggest using the advanced filtering modal. And what I mean by that is you'll find all of the fields that exist on a model type in the advanced filtering menu. So let's say that you've created a new field. Let's say it's a drop-down of types of support for your grant requests. You can actually find in the advanced filtering menu that field, and then you can select the value that you'd want the condition to be for that ad hoc report. So let's say that you only want to see grant requests that have normal support in this report. You'll be able to do that by using advanced filtering. You can also change the way that the basic filtering menu is configured, but we do suggest that you ask us at support so that we can guide you in making that change for you in the form builder. And also, you can always try doing so in pre-production. You can always make changes and ask us any questions safely by testing in pre-production. So I hope that answers your question. Alrighty, that looks like that's it for today. So let's go ahead and call it. In this Filtering in the Ad Hoc Report Builder webinar, we went over the following questions. How do I add basic filters? How do I add advanced filters? How do I add cross-card filters? And how do I add runtime filters? To learn more and access the video recording of this webinar along with this extended Q&A, please visit our knowledge base at flux.io/knowledge. There you'll be able to find a list of our upcoming webinars, which will be updated at the end of this month as well for November and December, links to register for those future webinars, and recordings of past webinars under the folder Training Webinars. Or, of course, please feel free to ask us at support, and we'd be happy to help you with anything. So thanks again for joining us today, and we hope to host you again at our next training. Have a great one.